Welcome to Knowledge Hub. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In August 2025, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., during a high-profile state visit to India, signaled a potential and significant shift in the country's foreign policy by expressing openness to joining the BRICS bloc, a coalition of major emerging economies. His carefully worded statement, "I'll certainly be open to it, we'd have to certainly look into it, but it provides us more options," was a clear message. Manila is rethinking its traditional alliances and considering new directions for its international partnerships. For decades, the Philippines has been a key U.S. ally in Asia, hosting American troops and participating in joint military exercises. But now, it's openly considering a bloc often seen as a counterweight to the West, signaling a willingness to diversify its strategic relationships. This move reflects a pragmatic recognition that, in a rapidly evolving multipolar world, security and prosperity depend on building bridges with multiple power centers, rather than relying on a single dominant partner. The Philippines is not alone in this recalibration. Many developing nations are seeking alternatives to Western-led institutions, drawn by BRICS' promise of a more inclusive and balanced global order that better reflects their interests. For Manila, having more options is a strategic necessity, not just a diplomatic nicety. It's about ensuring the country's resilience in an unpredictable global environment. Marcos's signal has triggered intense debate at home and abroad, as the country weighs the potential economic benefits of BRICS membership against the risks to its long-standing alliances and the possible impact on its security commitments. The world is watching closely, knowing the Philippines' choice could reshape Southeast Asia's future and influence the broader balance of power in the region. Smaller powers like the Philippines are no longer just observers. They're actively shaping the new geopolitical landscape, asserting their agency in a world where alliances are constantly being redefined. To understand the Philippines' interest, you have to look at what BRICS has become. Once just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the bloc has expanded, adding Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and most recently, Indonesia. Now, BRICS represents over 40% of the world's population and a huge share of global economic output. Its members are diverse but united in wanting to reform a global order dominated by the West. They're building their own institutions, like the New Development Bank, and pushing for trade and energy deals that bypass the US dollar. For the Philippines, joining BRICS could mean access to new markets, investment, and energy partnerships. This isn't just a talking shop anymore. It's a platform for real economic cooperation outside the Western sphere. The question, do the benefits of joining outweigh the risks of straining old alliances? The timing of Marcos Jr.'s BRICS overture is no accident. It comes at a moment of profound change in the region and reflects a careful calculation by the Philippine leadership. It's a direct response to shifting US-Philippine relations, which have grown more complicated and uncertain in recent years. With Donald Trump back in the White House, US foreign policy has become more transactional, demanding economic concessions from allies in exchange for security. The old assurances of unwavering support are no longer taken for granted. At their July 2025 meeting, security talks were inseparable from trade negotiations, making the alliance feel less like a partnership and more like a business deal. The tone has shifted, and so have expectations on both sides. This new reality is pushing Manila to look for alternatives, as the government weighs its options in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. Across Southeast Asia, countries like Indonesia and Vietnam are also engaging with BRICS, hedging their bets in a region caught between US and Chinese interests. The Philippines is not alone in seeking new partners and opportunities. For the Philippines, not exploring BRICS could mean missing out on a major new engine of growth, investment, and influence. The stakes are high, and the potential rewards are significant. The move is a direct response to doubts about the reliability of American support and a recognition that the world is no longer defined by old alliances alone. Marcos's signal is a message to Washington. The Philippines has options, and it's willing to explore them if its interests aren't met. It's also a message to Beijing and Moscow. Manila isn't locked into the Western camp, and is open to building new relationships on its own terms. This is classic middle power hedging in a world where old certainties are fading, and new opportunities and risks are emerging every day. Economically, BRICS membership is tempting for the Philippines, offering new markets, investment, and access to the new development bank for infrastructure funding. The NDB could help finance critical projects without the tough conditions of Western loans, aligning with Marcos's push for rapid development. But there are risks. Deeper economic ties with China could flood the market with cheap imports, hurting local industries and increasing dependency. Governance and transparency standards in BRICS projects may not always align with Philippine goals. Closer BRICS ties could also provoke economic retaliation from the US and EU, risking trade preferences and investment. The challenge is to maximize benefits while minimizing risks, embracing new partners without alienating old ones. Filipino policymakers must craft a sophisticated economic diplomacy to avoid being caught in a new set of dependencies. The promise is real, but so are the perils. Success will depend on careful, strategic engagement. The biggest challenge for the Philippines today is managing its long-standing alliance with the United States, while also exploring new opportunities with emerging groups like BRICS. The U.S.-Philippine Mutual Defense Treaty has anchored the country's security for decades, with American forces stationed across the archipelago and regular joint military exercises reinforcing the partnership. Any move toward BRICS will inevitably raise alarms in Washington, especially since China and Russia are prominent members of the bloc. President Marcos must carefully convince the U.S. that joining BRICS is about unlocking economic opportunity, not a signal of strategic realignment or a shift in loyalties. At the same time, he must demonstrate to BRICS members, especially China, that Philippine membership would bring real value and commitment. The transactional U.S. approach under Trump complicates things further, as economic demands now underpin security guarantees, making negotiations more complex. If the U.S. rejects Manila's trade offers or fails to provide economic incentives, the Philippines may be pushed to lean further toward BRICS, seeking new partnerships and markets. The risk is clear. The Philippines could become a frontline state in a potential U.S.-China conflict, or it could lose vital U.S. security guarantees if perceived as drifting away from its traditional ally. Marcos's task is to balance both sides with skill and caution, aiming for a Philippines that is a friend to all, enemy to none. It's a high-wire act in a world of intensifying competition, where every move is watched closely by global powers. Domestic turmoil is also shaping Marcos's BRICS calculus. In September 2025, a massive corruption scandal over flood control projects sparked nationwide protests and demands for reform. The crisis has put pressure on Marcos to deliver real economic progress and clean governance. BRICS, and especially its new development bank, offers a potential alternative for funding infrastructure, presented as a break from corrupt old patterns. Marcos can frame a BRICS pivot as a bold move for national renewal, diversifying partnerships and reducing dependence on any single power. But closer ties with China and Russia are controversial at home, especially given maritime disputes and public suspicion. Marcos must build consensus, convincing Filipinos that BRICS is a pragmatic step toward prosperity, not a betrayal of national values. As 2025 ends, the Philippines stands at a crossroads. The decision on BRICS will shape its economy, security, and global standing for years to come. Manila could pursue cautious engagement, dialogue partner status, or project-based cooperation, reaping some benefits without full commitment. Or it could go all in, risking backlash from the West and internal divisions, but gaining new opportunities with BRICS. The process itself signals a new era. The Philippines is no longer a passive pawn, but an active player shaping its destiny. Its choice will be a bellwether for Southeast Asia's response to a more complex world. Whether it embraces BRICS, deepens U.S. ties, or balances both, the world is watching. The path Manila chooses will reveal much about the future of global power.